Hello, all, and greetings from Jersey Mike's Arena, where Rutgers had a golden opportunity at a top 10 win, specifically over number 7 Michigan State, where it held a 12-point lead late in the second half, or I should say midway through the second half, and was shooting the lights out for the first 13 minutes before things kind of went sideways. We'll dive into the game. We'll dive into the end of regulation. We'll dive into the whole kit and caboodle. But first, let me know how I sound. I don't have my mic. I forgot the piece I need to use my mic at home when I went there before the storm. And as you guys all know, around the state, there's way too much snow to drive to get that. So hopefully the sound is bearable enough. Let me know how I sound. Let me know how I look. Hopefully good. And we'll get started on an 88-79 loss for Rutgers in overtime. And thank you. So sounds like I sound good. My Portuguese friend says in the comments I sound good. So Rutgers led. Let's go here to the critical moment. Rutgers led by 11 points they led by 9 points with 7:54 to go. At that point, they had hit their 21st shot on their 42nd attempt. So they were shooting 50%. They had forced at least a dozen turnovers for Michigan State. They were holding them to, let's see right here. At that point, Michigan State was 18 of 40, so just under 50%. And Rutgers was cruising. And they end up missing 13 of their last 15 shots in regulation. They go 8 straight minutes without making a basket between the end of regulation and the beginning of overtime. Was once, probably their most, the win that probably compares to what this win would have been was the win over Wisconsin, number 4 Wisconsin in Eddie Jordan's last year, kind of a WTF win in the middle of a lost season. But Rutgers does not get that today. We'll go into the critical moment. 17 seconds left. Jermichael Davis gets fouled. He hits 2 shots, goes to the line with Rutgers up 2 with 17 seconds left. This is immediately after Jeremy Fears missed 1 out of his 2 free throws for Michigan State, which put Rutgers in position to hit 2 free throws, go up 4 with 17 seconds left. Not insurmountable, but you feel pretty good about that. Jermichael Davis goes 1 of 2 from the free throw line. Again, a game where Rutgers shot 19 of 23 on free throws. One of their 4 misses is at a time you cannot miss a free throw. But he makes the second. Michigan State inbound with 17 seconds left. Fears dribbles down the court, finds an open teammate in the corner for a 3. He hits it to tie the game. And Rutgers goes down the court. Tariq Francis has the ball in his hands. Of course, that's the situation you want. He dribbles into the paint and misses a floater for what will be a game winner, his second game winner of the season. You guys tell me what your thoughts were on that last end sequence. We asked Steve Peichel, or I asked Steve Peichel, about whether he thought about fouling up 3 down there. He said 17 seconds was a long time. He felt comfortable with his defense. I understand that. I think fouling because they had a 1-and-1. They were in the bonus, not the double bonus, and they would have to, hit both. Rutgers have to inbound, miss, so 3 is the right decision. But I understand there's enough time there that even when they gave up the 3, they did have a possession and go down the court. The rebuttal is that they had scored in 4.5 minutes, but I can understand the thought process not going there. I don't think it's an egregious decision to not foul up 3. Again, I think they should have, but I don't fault him for making that decision. And I just don't understand how they couldn't hit 1 shot down the stretch after going 21 of 42. They went small down the stretch. They did not have a center, either Obole or Dortch, for the last 6:45 of regulation and all of overtime. Obole checked out at 6:45. And it didn't work because Michigan outscored them. Let's see, from the 6:45 mark, Rutgers went all small. Michigan State outscored Rutgers 6:45. Rutgers was up 60-55, and they lost 88-79. So at the end of regulation, with no center, they outscored Rutgers 18-13. And then in overtime, they outscored Rutgers by 9. So I don't know if it's entirely the small ball is the reason. I I just think that Michigan State is better, and it was crunch time, and Michigan State made every play, and Rutgers did it. I agree with. I'll go into the comments right now. I agree with Anthony Buccelli that they were getting to the free throw line. I mean, in fairness, they were getting to the free throw line. They shot. Sorry to keep looking through these numbers, but Rutgers shot free throw line. In the last 248, Rutgers shot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 free throws. Sorry, 10 free throws in the last 3 minutes. So they got to the free throw line. I think the issue was just that they were not creating shots. They weren't creating easy shots. Michigan State at various points in this game, and I will put the caveat here that Michigan State was playing against the defense with Emmanuel Obole and Bryce Dortch at center, and Rutgers was playing the number one most efficient defense in the country. That being said, Michigan State got easy look after easy look at the rim, just easy looks. Emmanuel Obole looked lost half the time. They were getting alley-oops to Cooper, or sorry, Jackson. No, to Cooper Carson Cooper. They were getting easy looks at the rim. They went 14 of 18 on layups, 4 of 4 on dunks. They had 38 points in the paint. Rutgers wasn't able to replicate that on the other end as far as getting easy shots. They hit a lot of shots, but a lot of them were tough. The one shot maker for the day, I will say, Harun Zerno. And it is a shame Rutgers lost this game because they wasted Harun Zerno's best game. He scored 16 points. He went 6 of 10 from the floor, 4 of 8 from threes. That is his best game of the season by far. This was the first time in off the top of my head, that he performs like this where Rutgers needs him early in the game, when Rutgers is in the game, and not, like Tennessee, it was in the second half of a blowout. This is a great performance from Harun Zerno, exactly what they needed from him when they brought him here. Tariq Francis, 23 points, but it took him 17 shots and 8 free throws to get there. He slowed down towards the end. He went 3. He made 4 of his first 6 shots, and then he went 2 of 7 in the second half. So Rutgers had 5 players score. 5 players accounted for all of their points. Keen Powers, Emmanuel Obole, Lino Mark, Chris Newley, and Bryce Dortch combined to go 0 of 1, 2, 0 of 4, 0 of 9. 0 of 9 from the field. Darren Buchanan, they put the ball in his hands and made him go one-on-one, try to exploit mismatches with Michigan State's smaller bigs, and it worked to a certain extent. He had 14 points on 5 of 11 shooting, did go 1 of 4 on threes, but he went 4 of 7 on twos, got to the rim, did settle for a jumper or 2, but I thought he was solid offensively. Dylan Grant had his best game in a while, 11 points on 4 of 7 shooting, 4 rebounds, 2 steals. JaMychal Davis, 15 points on 4 of 8 shooting, hit his 1 3. I would like to see JaMychal Davis take more threes. We've impressed that, but I thought outside of an ill-advised drive to the rim where he got stuffed, I thought he had a good game, but Rutgers didn't get enough from the rest of its roster. All right, let's go through the comments. Michael Chen asks, why did Pike not use his last timeout to drop a play for the last shot? A timeout in which he could have kept, he could have used a challenge on the goaltend. I thought the shot was fine. I mean, do you think Rutgers would have drawn up a better play, a set play in the half court than they got in that transition moment? No, I thought they got a good shot, about as good a shot as I think Rutgers could get. So, which, that could be an indictment on what we think of Rutgers' offensive strategy and system. But I thought that was a good shot, and I think you would take Tariq Francis taking that shot with a chance to win over the number 17 in the country any day. I think it was a fine shot. At the end of regulation, when you have to make your free throws, you have to put the ball in the hands of Tariq Francis. He has money at the line. Davis is not. Fair point. JaMychal Davis went. He took 4 free throws in the last minute. Let's see. All this gets jumbled up at the end of the game, as you guys can imagine. So JaMychal Davis went 3 of 4 on free throws in the last 24 seconds. Sorry. He went, in the last 45 seconds, he went 4 of 6. So he missed 2 free throws out of 6 crucial ones down the stretch. Tariq Francis went 8 for 8. On the season, we're looking at a difference between Tariq Francis shooting 87.5% on free throws coming into today. That's 92nd nationally. And JaMychal Davis shooting 73.2%. So I agree with this. I think in an ideal scenario, you put the ball in Tariq Francis's hands, but they didn't. Akiri, my guy, who always says hello after the game, says brutal loss. I would agree. Musically says, I think Francis should be a starter. He would average 28 or 30, and why is Powers playing so much? Tariq Francis is averaging 25 points off the bench. I mean, I just don't. I agree with Steve Peckel here. Like, why would you change something that's working? I don't think it matters that much, frankly, because he's playing a ton of minutes. He's averaging coming into today. He was averaging. Let's see, since Seton Hall, which we agree was his worst game of the season, and the last game he started. He started the last 9 games off the bench, and he's played 27 minutes a game. And he scored 21.6 points per game. I think that's about as good production as you could ask. And I don't think starting him would make much of a difference. He's playing about as much as you'd expect anyway, and scoring pretty well. So I'm now understanding what Buccelli is saying. He's saying put the ball in Tariq Francis' hand to force them to foul him so he goes to the free throw line instead of JaMychal Davis. I misinterpreted what you said earlier. I 100% agree here. Izzo was a smart coach. Izzo was also one of the greatest coaches in the history of college basketball. I think Rutgers would be hard pressed to have Tom Izzo at Rutgers, so it's a bit unfair to compare. Right Science Fiction says that was 100% roster construction loss. Darren Buchanan Jr. guarding the power forward center for Michigan State just don't have the skill, players, or coaching to pull off a win like that. Letting Michigan State back in the game was a coaching failure. I mean, the roster as it was constructed was up 12 points on Michigan State halfway through the second half. So I just don't think. I guess your point, I would say I agree that constructing a roster that is significantly less talented than most teams it faces, including the number 7 team in the country, a lot of continuity over the years with a Hall of Fame coach on the other hand, then yes, I would agree with you. But I think the players that they recruited hit 21 of their first 42 shots. I'm not saying this team is better than we thought it was before today, because it's not, but they played about as well as you could expect from this roster. If you're telling me that they need to have a better roster to have a better chance at being a top 10 team, I would agree, but that's not really something they can change at this point, right? Mike Broadbent of the Late Report podcast says Rutgers choked. They played just about as good of a game as they were capable of for the first 36 minutes. It played like a JV team the final 9. I'm assuming that includes overtime. Actually, it does. I just did the math. I would agree. The last 4 minutes, because even when Michigan State was punching back in the second half, Rutgers was answering. Rutgers had kept a bit of a cushion until, again, right about the 8-minute mark. 7 minutes, 54 seconds. And then things just collapsed and they just could not get a shot. They just could not hit a shot. To miss 13 shots in the span of 15 seconds at a crucial point like that. That's just what bad teams do. Bad teams find a way to lose games like that. And Rutgers, I think we could all agree, is a bad team. So, but yeah, they were in position to get a win. It wouldn't be season changing, obviously, right? The season is what it is, but it would be a memorable win for Rutgers. I think people still talk about the win over Wisconsin that Jordan year, and it's just a shame. And also now Rutgers is on a 4-game losing streak. They're going to be dogs in their next 3 games. Very possibly have their first 7-game losing streak in 8 years. This would have cut that, right? This would have cut that, but they didn't. And now they have a tough task of going to Los Angeles for 2 games and then hosting Nebraska, which is, they got their first loss of the year today, but they're still pretty damn good. So RU Long Island says on the pod that Politi and I talk about the lack of modern offensive system. Why do you not ask Pike the question directly about shooting the inefficient mid-range? I plan to ask Steve Pike questions about that more when I sit down with him one-on-one. I just don't think the post-game press conference is a place to do it. He is wound up after a game like this. They shot a decent amount of threes today. They shot 27 threes, they shot 27 threes, which I would have to check, but I think that's one of their most of the season. And it's just not the right venue. I understand what you're saying, but I think the best scenario would talk to him one-on-one and talk in depth, not just ask the question, why do you shoot mid-range jumpers, but try to understand exactly what they're doing offensively. And I plan to do that at some point before the end of the season. So we'll have to work on timing, but that is in the works because I just think it would be more informative than asking him on the podium in front of reporters after a back and forth game after they just blew a game to the number 7 team in the country. I just don't think you're going to get a good answer from him. So, but it's a fair question. I'm not saying it's a bad. I think it's a totally fair question, and I think it should be asked. I agree. I just think from my personal perspective, there are better venues to do so and more productive venues to do so. So, listen, if I don't hold up my end of the bargain, and by the end of this season you don't have a story on what is Rutgers trying to do offensively after all these years, then you guys can crucify me. But give me a month. Grandpappy Brown says, great game, exceeded expectation, bump for the boys. I would agree. I think nobody expected this. Nobody. Maybe outside of people at the Rutgers locker, but nobody. And maybe Tom Izzo. I think tough road environment. Team is 18-2. They look at Rutgers as kind of an easy win. I think it was predictable maybe in that way, but I don't think anybody anticipated. So it was a good game. The shame for Rutgers is ultimately the result. Akiri says we found a way to lose. That's what a 9-12 team does. I agree to that sentiment. I think, again, bad teams lose games like this. Bad teams blow double-digit leads in games they controlled the whole way. Michigan State is also a really good team. They're going to compete to win the Big Ten. So, Musically says, if we had just an average center, Rutgers would have easily won this one. I agree. They got nothing out of center offensively, and they were just bullied defensively. Bullied. I mean, and not physically bullied. I mean, just maybe the better word is toyed with. They were just moving Emmanuel Bole and Bryce George at will. Jeremy Fears was blown by his defenders, getting into the paint, and then he had the wherewithal and the talent to kind of just find Carson Cooper over and over and over again for alley-oops and find open teammates. Yes, Rutgers, that is clearly the biggest hole on this roster. It's been the biggest hole in this roster for 2 years. It's not fixable now. I think Steve Pikiell tried to negate that by going small ball. I don't know how, Michigan State's one of the few teams you probably could do that with, but I just don't know how efficient or effective it will be in the rest of the Big Ten. But I mean, I cannot agree more that center is the biggest issue on this roster. Can't really fix it now, but it must be a priority in the transfer portal after 2 straight years of not getting one. If Rutgers really does have more money to work with, whether they get a bona fide starting center that can compete in the Big Ten will be the true test of that. That's one of the more expensive positions, along with point guard, and it has to be a priority. Rutgers is going to have to pretty much rebuild its entire roster, I think. Even then, even if you have to pay a premium for a center, you have to do that because clearly Rutgers has struggled mightily without one. Zerno had that dumb offensive foul. Yeah, he almost tackled a Michigan State player for the offensive foul in a crucial moment down the stretch. I agree. Musically, adds on that it was at a pivotal turning point. I agree. It came just so I have a reference point because I remember thinking this is a bad spot here. Offensive foul with 1:31 left. Rutgers was up 3 points and had a chance to get a double multi-possession lead over Michigan State. Michigan State drives down the other end and hits a layup to cut it to 67-66 with 1:16 to go. That play and this play, Steve Pikiell pointed out, the last play of the second half, where Rutgers gives up a wide open layup underneath the basket on an inbound, just completely lost on the play. They fell for all the Michigan State players clearing out to the perimeter and let Carson Cooper come into the paint by himself and hit the layup. Those are 2 points in a game that went to overtime, right? So butterfly effect and all that, but TRC says great story by Sarge. The athletic department deficit is 156,000 one-piece cards. That's a great joke. TRC, very interesting scenario today. Rutgers did change from Friday. They learned their lesson from what was a chaotic scene for the Indiana game. They moved the locations to where the cards are picked up from the entrance to the corners, which helped move traffic. They heightened security significantly to help move things along, try to move the flippers and the scalpers. That was the word escaping me. Though I saw a lot of the same faces running and walking around the rack all night. A lot of guys security and flipping the cards. And I'll have a story on that at some point in the morning tomorrow. Just a really, really interesting situation that I'm sure a lot of you lived through. So I'm curious. You guys tell me what your experience was the second time. Did you guys get approached by scalpers? Did you guys get offered? How much money did you guys get offered? Did you see anything interesting? I got a few interesting anecdotes that I'll put in my story tomorrow. But I think a lesson learned for a lot of Rutgers fans for the Nebraska game, which will be the last card giveaway. Who knows if the cards will still be valued as much as they are now, as they will then. There will be a few more games in other schools that will have these cards. Rutgers was the first. It was 2 of the first 3. Friday was the first. Saturday at Gonzaga was the second. Today was the third. So I don't know. I'm not an economics major. I reckon they won't be going for $600 a pop after the next few times, but I could be wrong. And who knows? Maybe in 10 years they're worth $60,000. Pike could have challenged the goaltending. I did not see the play. I should say, I'm not sure what play you're referring to. One, and I don't know. I didn't see it, even if I knew. If you're referring to the last play of regulation, I think Cohen Carr pulled his arm back, at least according to a question from a Michigan State beat writer, Tom Izzo, but I'm not entirely sure. If you know the point, the possession, let me know. Zerno had a great shooting night and a big reason why Rutgers had the lead, but he shouldn't be closing the game with bad perimeter defense and decision-making. Him, alongside Michael Davis's free throw shooting, cost us. I think Steve Peichel, after that offensive foul, learned his lesson and started subbing in and out offense defense. Let me see if I... No, so after the offensive foul, he subbed him out and did not back in. I think that's the right move. One could argue maybe 131 left in the regulation was too late to make that decision, but I didn't think it was like he gave up a bunch of points in the last 90 seconds. Musically says the more Francis on the floor, the more points. Simple math, yes, but you get diminishing returns, right? If he plays 35 minutes a night and he's taking 30 shots, the law of averages say that he's gonna, the returns are diminishing, and I just don't think. I understand the point. I think he's playing a good amount of time. He's taking more than enough shots, I think. Rutgers needs other people around him to step up, and today they did. They did. They had help. They scored enough points to win this game. They just could not stop Michigan State inside. And they slowed down defensively as far as turnovers in the first half, 5 in the second. Let me make sure that's correct, actually, before I start spewing stats, but I think that was correct. They forced 10 turnovers in the first half and 4 in the second. So that a big part of their success in the first half went away. Linda Conroy says MSU showed they are the better team the last 5 minutes. Outcoached, now played. Tom Izzo said Rutgers played Rutgers in the first 90% of the game, and Michigan State the last 10%. I would agree. I mean, I generally would agree. Michael Chen, possible story for us and Politi, KJ Duff, and Antoine Raymond, and 3 other football players with a fistful of hundreds of buying the. Is that true? I think this is. I think I'm getting trolled. Michael Chen, can you please come back and tell me if you're trolling or not? Because I'm pretty sure you're trolling me. If you were the coach, what would you do that would be better? I would get better players. I don't know much about basketball beyond that. I certainly don't know. I don't know how to do this, but I think clearly what Rutgers needs to do is take less mid-range jumpers, have the center do something offensively, anything offensively, and try to create more movement off the ball offensively. Try to create, fabricate easy shots. And then defensively, I think keep going to junk it up, force turnovers, be physical thing. That's really the only way this team could be effective defensively. So I think they're doing fine on that end. It's really hard to be a good defensive team when you just don't have a center. That Oboy's been okay defensively, actually. Let's be fair to him, but he's not been above average. And they have small guards, so it's hard to overcome that too. Rutgers just doesn't have the horses. That's kind of putting them behind the 8 ball. Scott Trebucher says leaving best 3-point shooter wide open is more of a problem than not fouling. Obole was unplayable today as he was lost on defense. Francis is getting good look at the end of the game is okay. I agree with the Francis look again. I did. I thought it was fine. Michigan State shot 36.4% on threes. But I agree. I guess the you're saying in the last play of the game, leaving their guy wide open. I think Steve Peichel would like to get that possession back defensively, but Pike typically doesn't call timeouts when necessary, only after things get out of hand. I do think his timeouts are strange. Like sometimes when Rutgers is on a run, he calls a timeout. Sometimes when a little early in an opponent's run, he calls a timeout. I would agree that I'm not the king of clock management and timeout timing and all that stuff. I don't think about it as much as some people who watch basketball longer than I have to, but the timing of them often every game strikes me as odd. So I take that for what it's worth. Intuitively, I haven't done a full study, but intuitively, I agree with you musically. Jason Curry says, "Fire everyone." I think some people feel that way. Terrible defense down the stretch, stupid fouls, missed free throws. Everything that could go wrong for Rutgers went wrong in the last 4 minutes. I agree. Saw the blow lead coming from a mile away. If you live away from New Jersey, you probably could have taken the live line and gotten a lot of money. That's why I always say to people who, in hindsight, see what would have actually happened. They say they saw it coming. If that's true, put a little bit of spray a little bit of money on the live line, and then you could be right and make some money off it. Just got home from the game. It was a long, torturous ride. When Obole came in second, we gave up a quick six, largely because of his ineptitude. At least I got my one-piece card. My friend J-Mac, the rapping, and keep it to yourself. Curious says some guy got arrested in the bathroom. That is where the scalpers were, A, hiding from the security guards, and B, doing a little bit of dealing, trying to convince fans to get them, to sell their cards for significantly what they're worth. I guess I was not there for this, so my guess is that this was someone who stuck around a lot longer, did not heed a lot longer than they should, did not heed the warnings, probably evaded capture one too many times, and was kicked out. I thought they, the Frank says police were groups gathering. I thought they did a decent enough job. They gave a lot of leeway to the scalpers, a lot of leeway. And, they abused it, but it is what it is. It was the parting of the C's defense that allowed Michigan State to drive to the lane at will. I think, one, you're right, Patrick, that the lack of a low post presence is hurtful defensively to defend the rim. And I think that Rutgers guards are just not quick enough. We're probably a little gassed by the end to stay in front of Jeremy Fierce, who was really good. Patrick asks, was Frank Kaminsky out for the Wisconsin win? He was. Does not take away from the fact that one of the worst Rutgers teams in program history beat a top 5 team. Anthony Bucelli is saying the goaltend was on the last shot by Francis. I would think they would look at that last 2 minutes, but I just don't. I don't think he goaltended. Obole and Dorsch were unplayable. Complete negatives for us as Michigan State attacked them on every possession. Dylan Grant's defense was notably bad at the end when Michigan State started isolating. Tom Izzo said that there were mismatches when Rutgers went small, and they took a while, but they eventually took advantage of them. It looks like you identified those mismatches as well. Tom Izzo's a good coach. I just think it's worth starting Francis. He's our best player out of respect. I'd like to know how many other teams don't start their best player. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I do think it seems like a mutual decision between Tariq and Steve after the disastrous start against Seton Hall. Hard to bounce back from that. I don't think he'll do that again, but maybe mentally it's a better hurdle for him to come off the bench. I think it comes out in the wash. I really don't think it's that as big of a deal. That you have to change it just for the sake of changing it. I think him starting him coming off the bench makes sense for now. I mean, is him coming off the bench starting going to change a bad team and make them mediocre? I don't think so. NJ Short Fishing says, I really hope Zinn understands that this is year 10. It's unacceptable to have a team like this with a coach that's paid as much as he's paid. I think all of our listeners and watchers are well aware of the situation with Steve Pikiell's contract. So I think Kelly Zinn's hands are tied. And even if she wanted to fire him after this year, it's not tenable. This win, if they got a win today, that would be the easiest selling job of why the signs are pointing up and Steve Pikiell needs more money to work with. Today hurts that argument a bit. Not an argument I agree with, to be clear, but when you got to sell this stuff publicly, that could be a feather in your cap. But the test will, I think there is a valid excuse if you're petitioning for your job as Steve Pikiell to say, I did not have enough NIL money to get a good enough roster to compete in the Big Ten, right? We can argue the merits of that, as I've said many times, but I think combined with his contract situation and the reality of that case, I think that earns you another year and the chance to have more money to work with, build a roster with that. And then if you don't succeed with that, that's when there is justification and money can be raised. And as you've seen from our stories this week, there's not a lot of money to go around. Well, there's a lot of money being spent at Rutgers. I guess you can make that argument, but it's not like Rutgers is flush with cash. And I think they are intent on reducing the deficit at some point. Probably some of that is raising revenue. You can make the argument that a bad basketball team is not as much as it should, at least, though football drives the bus on that, and football is profitable. We're going down a road we should leave for the podcast. Just a couple more comments down here. Michael Chen shoot me a DM or shoot me a tweet. Do you have a photo of this? I'm not sure I can take this. I didn't see this. I'm not sure I can take this for your word for it unless I get a photo. I just that would be quite the situation. HD says we were playing well above our average, and Michigan State was playing well below their average for most of the game. Yet all it took was for both teams to regress to their means the last 5 minutes to lose. I think that shows you how big of a gap there is between these two rosters. Exactly, HD. You said the same point in your follow up. I agree totally. Was planning on going to the USC and UCLA games next week. Now having second thoughts, I would say, Jason, if you live in Los Angeles, I don't see why not. If you live in New Jersey, I would say you are a crazy person if you do that. Musically says maybe it's good. We lost. No, I would say that there is really nothing that could happen this season for there to be change. And I think, even if they lost, they were up 12 points on the number 7 team in the country. They went to overtime with the number 7 team in the country. Obviously, after blowing a big lead, that's not the kind of loss that changes the picture. I sometimes wonder if Peichel or even Shiano were hoping to get fired and retire with the buyout. No, I don't think that's the case. I really don't. And I think if it were the case, you could probably get a mutually beneficial buyout or a compensation package and retire that way. I don't think they want to ruin their personal legacies by purposely losing to get fired. That doesn't make sense. These guys are very competitive people, and say what you want about them. And there's a lot of conversations to be had. I don't think that's something that would ever happen. Music Lee says at least we will sell one football game next year, game 5. That's the Indiana game, if I have my math right. This team brings up our hopes just to let us down even worse year after year after year. If you had high hopes for this team, I guess outside of when they're up 12 points in the second half, I don't know. Curious is off topic of basketball. What do I think of the football schedule next year? We knew the opponents. Today's really about the timing. I think they have 2 winnable games against Northwestern and Maryland back-to-back. That's going to be a key stretch. I think they have a chance to maybe get a ranked win early in the season against USC. If the combination of 2 things, 1, USC is ranked, and B, USC is overrated. That's, I think, the sweet spot Rutgers has to hit with USC to have a chance of ranked win there. I think it's a schedule where you can eke out 6 wins, but not much more than that. I would have to see how this team looks in the spring. I would have to look at the first 3 weeks of the season probably to have an evaluation, but season starts off easy with UMass, tough road game to Boston College. Not the toughest, but it's a lot tougher to do that in their usual non-conference home games against MAC teams. And then you have Howard to close non-conference. So a kind of a fun schedule, if you ask me. And only 2 road trips that you have to fly to, Northwestern and Wisconsin. There's 5 drivable games I shouldn't say 5 drivable games. There's Boston College, Penn State, and Maryland. 3 drivable games for Rutgers fans. So should be a good traveling season for Rutgers fans. Michael Chen says he did not take a photo. Listen, I believe you to a certain extent, but I'm going to need more character witnesses. There was a lot of people in the building. So guys, if anyone else saw this, please put it in the chat. I mean, it's quite something. Frank says this might be the best we're going to get this year. Probably. That's about as good as this team could play. And I'll definitely an issue. When has Rutgers ever outbid another Big Ten team for a top-tier player? I would never. And I don't count Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. Rutgers did not outbid teams for NIL. Those guys went to Rutgers in spite of the money they didn't get in NIL that they could get elsewhere. It's beyond comprehension how this program has gone from extreme expectations to the worst Power 4 program in 15 months. I mean, the simple explanation is they had 2 top 5 NBA draft picks, the 2 highest rated players in program history. That's its high expectations. Then they blew that opportunity, and that demolished expectations. It's pretty comprehensible to me. One could say they were surprised all this happened, which I agree to a certain extent. But it's pretty easy to comprehend how it happened. Who is the Kurt Cincinnati of college basketball? Probably the guy that also coached at James Madison when he was there and is Vanderbilt. Has Vanderbilt 17-3, 13th in the country on KenPom, top 20 in offense and defense. His name is Mark Byington, and he is killing it at Vanderbilt. And Rutgers is not going to be able to get him if that's what you're trying to say. There might be another one out there. I don't know. It's too early to talk about all this. But it's a good question. I think that's a question that every athletic department should be asking itself. Mike Broadbent from the Night Report says the football schedule is surprisingly favorable. Hopefully they decide to book the trend of the October home games being homecoming, though. Interesting question. I think they really don't have much of a choice because that's when it makes the most sense to have homecoming. They can't do it for USC. That's too early in the year, September 19th. You're right. Probably not doing Indiana because that would end up being like doing Oregon last year, which again is just insane to say that Indiana is at the caliber of Oregon. Michigan, Halloween too, not great timing. Though Michigan could be a little, wobbly after the whole situation at the end of the year. Nebraska maybe the 14th, but that feels too late in the year too. I think Rutgers is just in a tough spot with homecoming for the second straight year, the way the schedule worked out. Goldie says, what's the latest on the DC news? I got nothing for you, pal. I got nothing. Who knows? Hopefully we'll find out soon. If not, I don't know what to do with you guys and myself. Grant Pepe says maybe we need JMU's AD. Maybe. JMU is a great spot in that they have a lot of money. They play in an accessible league, and they have a willingness to win at James Madison. They invest in sports, and they have something in the water there. So yeah, I mean that's like the issue is that everyone's kind of caught onto the secret. It's not like it's Indiana and Vanderbilt bought early. Rutgers is now kind of at the back end of the gold rush. So Mike says last Saturday, September for Howard, probably, and that's a guaranteed win. Do you want the homecoming game to be Howard? Not much juice there, but I guess it gives people a reason to show up. So that's that too. So you know what? I like that. I would put odds on that as the odds on favorite game, and we'll find that out in due time at some point. There's still 8 months between now and the start of the season, so or 7 months. So, all right, guys. Anything else? Mike Broadbent. I won't read this out loud, but you guys can read it on the screen. I appreciate the validation of my of what I said. It's basically impossible to get anything that they don't want out. It's a solid operation in there as far as keeping information in-house. My Romance Theory says this is easily the best post-game show. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for saying that. It's very nice. Thank you for tuning in and participating. Akiri says, you think Politi will buy my card for $500? No, I think Politi knows better than that. I think you could probably sell it on eBay for $500, or you can get it graded. I think the rush now, after the initial run on Friday to just sell the cars, is to get them graded and be the first PSA 10 or 9, so you have that high value. And then if you miss that, the next one is to wait 10 years and hope that they're worth $5,000, because they very well could be another what are they called, Beanie Babies, and worth $5 in 10 years time. We don't know. That's why it's the market. It's just like every other. It's like the stock market. It's like poly market. It's like gambling on sports. This is all the gamification of America. Steve Politi watching the stream 38 minutes in at 10:24. What a warrior. He says he'll pay $497. This is the kind of bartering I saw on the concourse, where people were getting offered $300 and they said I could sell this for $500, and they would raise the price to $350. I pretended to have a card and said I would sell it for $150, and some guy tried to lowball me for $100. I couldn't believe it. Do I look like an easy mark to you guys? I don't think so. But I mean, one family who had no idea what was happening until a security guard stepped in almost sold 3 cards for $50 to get all together. They could make in the neighborhood of $1,000, $1,500 on those 3 cards, and they didn't. Sorry, I'm not even going to try to attempt to say this. A very loyal participant on the Discord, on Twitter, guy we've been chatting with for years. I don't want to miss Sahider. I don't want to mispronounce your name. I apologize if I did. But yeah, there was bowling at the Rack. I actually looked into writing a story about this a few years ago. During the pandemic, I have news. Very interesting stuff. Yes. Maybe we'll write that story someday. It's a good rabbit hole to go down to. Do you think Obole knows how bad he is? I mean, that's a bit of a mean-spirited comment. I'm sure he has a lot of film sessions with the coaching staff, and I think the coaching staff is very honest with him. So I think he's self-aware to know where his deficiencies are, and I'm sure he's working to fix them. So let's not be. I know the guy's 25 years old, but let's be let's not be too mean. Do you think our basketball or football teams will ever be top 25 again? Probably. They're in the Big Ten. They have enough opportunities. They're going to be playing sports here for another 15 years, at least 25, until this whole college sports experiment explodes. So yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's going to be anytime soon, but if you're giving me odds, yes or no, I take yes. Frank says, like, get me on an NIL deal. I'm all about it. I guess it depends on what the company is and what I am sponsoring, but I'm willing to hear you guys out. So any companies in the New Jersey area or otherwise, hit me up, and we'll see how much my soul comes and what things I'm willing to sell. I was gonna hawk to things I would hawk. There was another word I was thinking of, but it's late. It's 10:27. The Helgers already sponsors this live stream, which the logo is up here. And I always forget to do this, so thank you, Akiri, for reminding me. Thank you to the Helgers Hotel for sponsoring the Rutgers Rant, for sponsoring our live streams, for sponsoring our operation. Lord knows why they keep renewing with us and deciding to sponsor us, but we appreciate it more than I can express with words here. All right, guys, we're running really long here, 41 minutes longer than I expected. It's 10:27. All good. You can spell it however you want. You get the exemption. So again, unless you guys have any last second questions to throw in the chat here, I think I'm going to start wrapping it up. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for subscribing. If you guys are watching this without subscribing, which I doubt there are many of you, hit the subscribe button, because we've been stagnant, the same number of subscribers for 2 weeks now. We got to bump those numbers up, folks. We got to catch up with the rest of the Rutgers podcast universe. What is this? So bump up the numbers, hit the like button, throw in the comments, keep participating in all this. Thanks for hanging in and enjoying the show. I couldn't talk for as long as I did without you guys. One, because you guys give me content in the comment section, and two, because sometimes I feel like I would be talking to a computer screen. You guys make it feel real to me, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you to all of you who say hello when you pass by the press box. Always much appreciated. Thank you for reading our stuff. Like I said, should have something on the card thing tomorrow, and plenty of other content to go. Feel free to shoot your story ideas to us as well. We're always willing to hear that. And we'll see you guys again Saturday when Rutgers plays one of the LA teams, USC, and then we'll have a podcast again next week. And maybe, just maybe, the next time I speak to you guys, Rutgers will have a defensive coordinator. Because if they hire between now and Saturday, we'll have an emergency podcast. Other than that, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in once again. Have a good night. Goodbye.